Welcome back to the JumpifyLabs Podcast, the show for founders who want growth without the guesswork. Here we talk about AI and the systems driving predictable growth. And today we have someone who has navigated leadership at the highest levels, from Motorola to Fidelity to Blue Cross Shield, and brings decades of insight into what ethical decision making really looks like inside of organizations. Terry Poling, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jay. Good to be here.
The pleasure's all mine. Let's kick things off. You've worked at Motorola, Fidelity, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and a lot of other organizations. How did those early experiences shape your approach to leadership today?
Well, I was fortunate because I knew early in my career that I wanted to create my own business mid-career. And so I moved every 4 years intentionally to a different company, to a different industry, to a different assignment, all for the purposes of getting the experience that I thought would benefit me in building a business.
And when you look back over your 40-year career, what patterns did you see across the high performers?
Well, one of the things that's most common to the high performers is a high level of self-awareness. And that's a lot of the work that I do with leaders is helping them become self-aware, self-reflective. It's leadership development from the inside out, if you will, where I think many practitioners make the mistake as they focus on the exterior variables and miss what's important, which is what's coming from within. So that is probably the single most important quality that I've seen among successful leaders.
Okay, and for those who are self-aware, what activities are you seeing in them that lets you know that they are more self-aware than others?
Well, they're able to talk about their experience, firsthand from first-person experience. And they're able to also, in addition to that, be able to step into the shoes of other people. So empathy is an important element of what they're capable of doing. And they're able to express their understanding of what other people around them are feeling. And I have ways of validating that because I work with their teams for the most part and have an appreciation for their ability to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you've helped organizations navigate cultural transformations, but what's one that you're maybe most proud of, or what's one that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I worked with a medical devices company for a period of 7 years. And 4 of those years, the company was under a consent decree because the FDA had determined that they weren't following their own procedures. And during that time, I helped the domestic operations unit transform their culture from a mindset of where they felt that they were victims being picked on, to a place where they took much more ownership and was able to turn that situation and actually got out from underneath the consent decree in less time than was allowed.
Okay, and after 25 years of running your own business, what do you feel like has driven you to become successful at this stage that maybe other people can learn from?
Well, there's probably a number of things that I could point to that in that regard. One is when approaching a client, I suggest that one not take the presenting problem at face value. One of the things that's most important is to ask questions and inquire and to dig deeper to really understand what underlies the issues or the symptoms that they're pointing to, and not go after solving the symptoms, but really going after the underlying causes. So that's one thing that I think is very important. And again, I've already said the other one, which is working from the inside out. I think that's an important quality, especially with the leaders that you're working with who are sponsoring most of these assignments.
Right. And then let's talk a little bit about the ethical dilemma, where if a client or if a business is going in the wrong direction, they're venturing off into murky waters of ethics. What are some early signs that something is just not going right with that client?
Well, I think the starting point for me was having a bad boss at one point in my career and understanding what it was like to work for someone who was unethical, if you will, and was making some very important decisions that were affecting other people's lives. And from that lesson, I learned not to work for a long period of time, to get out from under a bad boss when necessary. And I've carried that into my own business, recognizing that not often, actually it's pretty rare, but occasionally you'll run across a client that you need to fire because the starting point from which you began this assignment is very different from where they're taking the assignment. It's not matching up with what they had said were the objectives for the assignment. And in those circumstances, if you're not able to redirect, which was important to try to do, and remind them of what they committed to doing at the very beginning, then you're better off cutting your losses and moving on.
And how do you navigate that internal conflict between generating revenue and maintaining integrity?
Well, again, like the leaders I work with, I think it's important for us as practitioners to go deep and really understand what we value and what's important to us and be willing to take a stand on those values when it's necessary to do so. And that's the starting point, I think, for any practitioner is to step aside and take the time to recognize what are your core values. I was caught in a snowstorm back in the for a period of 3 days. And during that time, I was able to come up with my own list of 12 specific professional values in my life and was also able to come up with my own mission statement for what I was doing as a business. And both of those things have served me well. And I would encourage your listeners, if they are in business, to do the same.
Mm-hmm. And right now, you said that you're in a season of being selective. What does the ideal engagement look like for you right now?
It's an assignment where I can participate in contributing either as a leadership coach or as an organizational consultant. I also do a fair amount of training, but I'm not looking to be the owner of the assignment. I'm looking to participate with others. And I am a member of several professional networks where I can contribute in that capacity. And so it's assignments that are interesting, where the participants are passionate, where there's an opportunity to collaborate with others, and most importantly, to be able to see change.
Hmm. And you're also writing a book. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the book you're writing?
Well, the book is one on personal development. It's really one looking at one's life from four major perspectives. One is from what one has in life. So the outer circle of my model is having. The next circle is doing. A lot of people measure their lives in terms of what they can accomplish and what they achieve. So that's one way of defining one's life. The next inner circle is what one knows. And so one's knowledge base, or what one knows to be true, is also a source of self-definition. And then the next level is being, which is where most people stop, being. Who are we? What's important to us? But I go one step further. I think there's another inner circle, which is belonging, which is how do we connect? How are we connected with others? And how do we belong in the world? And so I think that's a whole another level of self-definition. So the book really attempts to address self-definition from all of those various levels. And each of them has advantages and each of them has downsides as well. So the book would address both of those.
Hmm. And what is your working title?
That's the last thing to be written. So I really haven't selected the title for the book yet. So stay tuned.
And when are you planning its release?
We're looking at this in the next 2 years.
Okay, so it's a bit of more of an ongoing project than an immediate thing to look out for. All right.
Yes.
And in 2026 being around the corner, what's going to be your focus for the upcoming year?
Well, I'm a seasoned professional and I'm reaching that point where I'm, as you mentioned earlier, want to be selective about the assignments that I pick. So part of my challenge, and I think this is true for all business owners who have had business for a long period of time, as I have, letting go. How do you begin to transition much of what you've been carrying as a business owner, as a founder, and how do you transition that to other individuals, other businesses? And I'm in the process of doing all of that. So I have a mentee that I've been working with for 10 years who's acquiring a lot of my business base, and I feel good about that relationship. And I'm working hard to transition my business to this individual.
Yeah, and as you transition assignments, as you transition projects and more of the responsibilities over to Michael, what systems or efficiencies are you hoping to improve
You mean in my own life or for him?
for him?
Yeah, for him. Well, most of my business has been built by word of mouth. So marketing has always been related to networking and to building relationships. And so an important role that I play is being a bridge, if you will, between the clients that I know or the clients that, contact prospects that contact me, is helping to build that bridge to Michael so that he can begin to acquire and assume some of this business. Now, he has a successful business. It's not like he's at ground zero. He's been in the works here for a while as well. So it's helping him build the team that can absorb this additional business.
Hmm. How long do you feel like this full transition from him maybe not sure the percentages, but maybe say right now 20% of all the responsibility, how long you think it'll take for him to be 100%?
Yeah, we started this journey over a year ago. And at that point, I was carrying, 95% of my own business at that point. And over the past year and a half, I've been able to transition that to a place where I'm now carrying about 25% of the business. And I see this being a journey over the next 3 years, one of transition, where I'll continue to play a partnering role with him and continue to support assignments that are being moved in his direction.
And for leaders navigating tough decisions within their own organizations, what's the best way for those people to learn from you?
Directly?
The book, I know I would say maybe go for the book, but with that being on the horizon for the next 2 years or so, what's the way for them to learn from you now? Yes, directly or indirectly, perhaps you have some content.
Well, I've got a lot of intellectual property which I'm willing to share, and I'm not looking to, sell that information. Again, I'm transitioning much of that to Michael, as you've mentioned, but I'm very willing to share that information as well. It's part of legacy building, I think. It's part of leaving behind that which others may have find some value in. And so those that are interested, I'm very willing to be contacted directly, and I can be contacted through all the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. I have my own website, which is thepullinggroup.com, and people can contact me through the website as well.
And what kind of legacy conversations are you most interested in having these days?
Conversations around making an impact in the world. I picked leadership development intentionally because it's been my belief and my experience over the years that if I've been able to have positive impact on one leader, that impact can have exponential impact because they in turn affect other leaders and other people. It's part of the reason I entered into this field, and it's been very rewarding to see that exponential impact. And that's something that I would want to help others achieve.
Yeah, okay. And also a lot of this conversation has been guided towards the term legacy. Is there a story or lesson you're hoping that lives on long past you, something that future leaders should always remember?
Wow, that's a big question. Something they should always remember. Well, again, at the risk of being a bit redundant, leadership starts with self awareness and self understanding, and so that's probably the lesson that I think is most important for any leader of any type of organization to hold on to and to nurture throughout their career, because they are the provider of the service, and being that service provider, you need to be aware in terms of what you're doing and who you're working with and the kind of impact that you're having. And being centered around one's values, as I said earlier, is important.
And just as a final question before we go, on the self awareness piece, a lot of people are just mindlessly going through life knowing or feeling like I'm all good, my way or the highway. Oftentimes don't get that level of self awareness until someone tells them directly, hey, man, you do this all the time. It rubs people the wrong way this way. How can someone potentially get ahead of that? Or is that really just the best way to actually course correct, to gain that self awareness?
Well, one of the things we know from the biological sciences is that those organisms that have more feedback loops are those organisms that are able to adapt. And in their ability to adapt, they're able to survive. And the same is true for leaders. The more feedback loops they can build into their experience, which means coworkers, it means family members, it means other professionals around them, and are asking questions to get feedback about how they're perceived and how they're performing and how they're having impact. That's a learning mindset. And a learning mindset is really the starting point for any effective leader.
Amazing. There you go. That's the mic drop moment there. An organization that gets feedback more often can more easily adapt. More easy you can adapt, the more likely you'll succeed.
Yes, Darwin was right. It's not the strongest, it's not the most intelligent. It's those capable of adapting that succeed. And so it goes.
Amazing. All right. Well, Terry, thank you so much for opening up your inbox on LinkedIn. If you have any questions for Terry, make sure to find him. He's there at Terry Poling. And then, of course, his website. So check him out on all his socials. He mentioned Facebook, LinkedIn, and also his website. And if you like more stories like this from other leaders in the space that are building business, in Terry's case, he's exiting his business. But for more stories like this, make sure you tune in to Jumpify Labs for more. My name is Jay. Thanks so much. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Jay.